if somebody went out with me, had sex with me, I was so desperate to keep that affection that I would go out the next day and probably steal or I would obtain something of ridiculous value, ridiculously out of proportion to the fact that this poor woman had just slept with me the night before. Here, look, a gift for you. Please stay with me.
Yeah. Don't leave me, don't leave me, don't leave me.
I dreamt that you were twisting through 7
Hello there. Welcome back to the Soberful podcast. I'm Veronica.
And I'm Chip.
So it's Valentine's Day week, and we are going to answer your questions on the topic of love. And
Very apt.
yes,
Very.
on theme.
Yep.
Which is a really important subject, because if it's not about love, isn't love the most important thing?
Absolutely.
Makes
Makes the world go round, apparently.
It does.
Yeah.
What's your take on Valentine's Day?
What's my take on Valentine's Day? That it is an old-fashioned event before they had anything else to do with their lives. And I think it was, it's Christmas cards. It was started by Queen Victoria. I think it's a marketing thing. I mean, the supermarkets near me are already full of Valentine cards, heart balloons, a whole lot of stuff. I mean, frankly, rather cynically, if you need a special day to express your love to somebody, there's probably something wrong. But it's quite nice sometimes to go out and make a special day of it. But I'm a bit, as you may have discovered over the years, I'm a bit cynical about Easter, Christmas, Valentine's Day, because we're going to have, as soon as Valentine's out the way, it'll be kicking off for Easter, and I get a bit I get a bit on my high horse about the marketing business. But having said that, I love doing. I've with Heidi, I have got into the habit of every year I make her a little card, which is a little sort of cartoon. It's like a little cartoon, little squares of a story, something to do with might have happened to us during the year, something about the way we are together, and I've done that every year. And she would not like it if I didn't produce one, and I enjoy doing it as well. But she's now got lots and lots and lots and lots of them, and I really enjoy doing them. So I like that kind of. I like the fact that it's an opportunity to really express your affection for another person, and I think, and why not? It's hard. It's that. Why not? Why? I don't want to be too cynical about things, but I think it's a nice thing to do. And the thing I like about doing my card is it is much better than just rushing around the supermarket or in the garage to try and get a bit of flowers and a box of chocolates and go, there you are, darling, here you are, everything's done, sorted.
Yeah.
Which is, not much, not pretty. So,
yeah.
I like the idea of people going away, doing things on special days. I think that's nice. Yeah.
Oh, I actually wasn't expecting that. That's
Am I that bad?
Yeah. I wasn't expecting that at all. I thought you were going to have a 15-minute rant there.
Well,
I think that's lovely that you make a card like that. I think that's really nice. I feel like Valentine's Day, when I was single, I was just like hated it, because it was just like, oh, I'm the only person on the planet that doesn't have a partner, and it's so unfair, and nobody buys me things.
yes.
And then when I met my husband, our first Valentine's, I was so excited, because my husband's very romantic and thoughtful. I was like, oh yeah. And he did all the things, and we went out to a restaurant, and I hated it. It was like, I just felt like, this is like the restaurant, everyone was like crammed in, table for two.
Yep.
The price had doubled
Yep.
for the normal menu. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I don't need this.
Yep.
And ever since, I'm quite like, my husband always buys me flowers, and I do like that.
Yep.
And I do sometimes, I guess I get him a chocolate or something, but I'm really like, can't be bothered with this. The one holiday I'm like, I do feel it's just, Yeah, I would never go out for dinner on Valentine's Day ever. I just think that's
It's a bit cliche,
crazy.
isn't it? But at the
Yeah.
same time, but I mean, I am sure there are many people uh, who that might be the only time that their partner expresses anything kind of beyond a grunt to them, and
Mm.
that would always that's always nice. But no, I like to uh, I like to, as I said, I particularly like putting a bit of effort in, doing this card for Heidi, and
Mm.
it's like a little comic. And yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah, no,
what a wonderful thing to treasure for her
yeah,
to have.
she's kept them all, and they're all yeah.
Yeah.
I,
So
but
first question from our community is, why is self-love so important in sobriety?
because if you don't have self love, you're not going to value yourself enough to put the effort into staying sober. And I think when we come into very few people come into sobriety or into this process feeling love for themselves. Most of us come into this process feeling dislike of ourselves, almost hatred of ourselves. We're full of self punitive remarks about how we've messed up, how we've done everything wrong. The idea of sort of being affectionate towards ourselves is completely not on our agenda at all. We despise is a strong word, but if we are starting this journey, we usually start it from a place of I am pretty worthless and I have made lots of mistakes. And I realize that is a spectrum and not everybody comes at it quite like that, but I think a lot of people do come in with a very negative view of themselves. And I know for myself, people said to me, "Oh, well, welcome to rehab. You're going to really care for yourself now." And I thought, I don't care for myself. I have spent the last 20 years trying to destroy myself, doing hurtful things to myself,
Mm.
putting myself in difficult situations. And they said, "Well, what about something else?" And I thought, well, okay, well, I could do this for my daughter to begin with. I could get sober for my daughter, and then we'll see what happens. And then gradually over time, um, I started to sort of get into the idea of actually sort of looking after myself, being kind to myself, and I think that's where it started, being kind to myself, and then that developed into yeah, a liking for myself, and then I mean certainly a strong enough affection for myself that I wanted to protect myself and do whatever required to make sure that that person, me, was looked after by my behavior, my actions, because I wanted to stay in sobriety and I had enough affection for that person to want to maintain that throughout my life.
It's the most important thing. It's really like, I look at my kids and I think, uh, I wouldn't want them to not love themselves. I love them so deeply.
Yeah.
And it's the same for us, right? We were all someone's child. We're just flawed human beings. We're not perfect. I just It's a terrible thing to not love yourself. And it takes a while. It's a process. But I think that it's the destination of sobriety. I think that we want this is the place we want to get to, and we get there through, you know, putting chemicals in our bodies is not an act of self-love, and so
No.
not putting chemicals in our bodies is an act of self-love, and getting some help, and all of those things are acts of self-love, and it's so important. Everything revolves around that. You can't have sobriety without the beginnings, and I'm sure that you were the same. Like back at the start, I was like, don't even like myself, don't even
Yeah,
want to talk
exactly.
about. But it's a gradual, and I think it starts with sort of like liking yourself and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. But it's the self love is the destination.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think I probably still struggle with saying the words "I love myself," but I certainly like myself, uh, and yeah, and I can say that, and I don't have any problem saying that. And I remember I used to uh, use it as an excuse to buy things. People, because I'd go out and buy expensive things, or not even whatever I could have expensive for whatever money I had. And people say, "Oh, blimey, that." Well, I've got to learn to love myself. I've got to be kind to myself, and that was my go-to excuse for spending too much money on myself. But there is something about, we'll go out and spend money on other people, and we'll give people presents, and we might do all sorts of things. But when it actually comes to, okay, well, actually, I really like that, and I would feel good owning that and having that and spending money on myself. And I know spending money is a very sort of, you know, transactional thing, but I do think it demonstrates that I have enough affection for myself to value how I look and how clothes feel on me and what I've got. And but I do think it takes much longer than I anticipated. I thought it would be a matter of a few weeks, I think it takes a long time to undo that. Very few people come into recovery going, I felt really, really loved by my parents. And I felt, that you'll often say people saying, well, I love my parents, but not hear many people saying, and they really loved me in return. Some people do, but I do think that there is general, as a general rule, most of us come from families or environments where we did not feel special
Mm,
and we did
mm,
not feel loved. I mean,
mm,
obviously there are exceptions to everything any of us say, but I do think there is a pretty broad generalization that a lot of us come from backgrounds where we were not made to feel special, we were not made to feel important, and that's why we drank and used, and that's why I think it's so important to develop a a love for yourself. Because if you hate yourself, and if you, which is a slight extreme opposite to love, but if you don't like yourself, you're not going to put the effort in to keeping yourself sober. You're not going to. What's the point? I'm not worth it. I'm not. And I do hear people quite a long time sober saying, "Oh, I don't really like myself very much." And I think, well, I can think of lots of things that you're doing right now that are good things, and it's trying to it's trying to change that thinking pattern from being told all your life that you're not very important to thinking I am important, I have value, and I want that value to be demonstrated by staying sober and looking after myself, as you said, in the most healthy way possible, looking after myself physically, emotionally, and all other ways.
The other thing is, it is a cliche, but it's very true. You have to love yourself if you want other people to love you. If you don't love yourself, then why would anyone else love you? So getting
I,
to a place of self-love is important.
yeah, I've always had a bit of a sort of problem with that because
Mm.
it's something you hear a lot
Hmm.
in support groups and all sorts of things. You know, there's no point in trying to love somebody else until you've learnt how to love yourself, and I kind of understand that. However, I cannot learn to love myself in a vacuum.
Mm.
I'm not
Yeah.
just going to sit there and go, "Oh, I love myself." Okay, great. I need people to demonstrate affection,
Yeah.
friendliness, care, warmth, to say things to me. I may not believe them at first, but I need to have information fed into me to start to build that kind of fire that will grow into a love and affection for myself. I can't do it in a vacuum. And that's why I think people who try to do solo sobriety struggle so much because they haven't got people giving them input, they haven't got people saying
Mm.
nice things to them. And we need that. If we're going to develop a love and affection for ourselves, we need people to say, "Oh, that was really good. That was very well done. Nice to see you." And a lot of it initially bounces off us and it doesn't get through or it just goes over the top of our head. But if we can allow ourselves sometimes just to let some of that good stuff come in,
Mm.
that's when we will start to love ourselves. And so I kind of, I do have a bit of a thing about it's very difficult to learn how to love yourself in a vacuum. You need to be around people to say nice things to you.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So okay, well that leads to the next question really well. What do you think the critical components are for learning to love ourselves? Where do we start? I think for me that the biggest, one of the most important things is, and again, because you can't do this in a vacuum, you need other people to help you with this, because
Yeah,
we need help with our thinking. We can't. We need other people to kind of pull us out of our thinking. Is the critical components are working on your limiting beliefs that you have about yourself and the story that you tell yourself about yourself, because
yeah,
that's the bit that's got to change. And the story that I used to tell myself is I'm not good enough. Well, if I'm not good enough, I'm not going to be worthy of being loved. And that's a limiting belief, and it's not
yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah,
And what is truth is you're just a messy human being who sometimes messes up and doesn't get things right, but has good intentions and does her best. And that's just no different from any other human being on the planet. There's nothing special and different about you, good or bad. And
sure.
and to kind of realize that a lot of that really changed things for me, is that I kind of began to see how ridiculous my limiting beliefs were, and the story, like it was so extreme. It's like, really, you're not you're just all right, you're just
Yeah,
all right. And that kind of, it's that, the opposite of like thinking I'm not good enough is not, well, I'm just incredible and amazing and the best.
yeah,
It's not that. It's just,
no,
I'm just all
exactly.
right. I'm just an
Yeah,
all right, imperfect human being who is worthy of love. For
yes,
me, that was a critical component in beginning to change it.
yes, and there's definitely two things I've got to say about that. The first one is that over the years, the things that I thought were sort of negative traits, like my impatience and my oversensitivity and my dislike of criticism, etc., etc., I have now, which I still have, obviously, I now have learnt to embrace those as being, that's a part of me. It's not the end of the world. I would rather be oversensitive than a narcissistic person. I would rather be able to say I am a bit sensitive, to that sort of thing. I'd rather be that person than, as you said, the opposite. But the question also says, where do we start? And I think a really good place to start, really simple way, is just every day, at the end of the day, write down 5 good things you did. Doesn't matter what they are. Helped an old lady across the street, stayed sober, washed my hair, just anything. 5, maybe 10 would be great, but you ask anybody in sobriety to tell me tell tell me 10 things you don't like about yourself, and bang, that you'll have it straight off in about 30 seconds. They'll tell you 10 things. Okay, now tell me 5 things you like about yourself when you'd be waiting there all afternoon. So I think training yourself to, at the end of every day, just write down 5 good things that you've done, and if you do it consistently, and it's the consistency that is really important. If you do that consistently, it will make a difference to how you feel about
Mm,
yourself. But it's
mm,
such an easy thing to do. Just get a notepad. If you really wanted to, get a nice notepad, a notebook, and just write down 5 nice things about yourself every day,
mm,
things that you've done. And I'm sure, well, in fact, I know that over a period of time, it will start to have a big impact on how you feel about yourself. So that
mm.
would be where I would start.
Yeah.
And
The,
also learning how to listen to when people say nice things to us.
yes, that's really interesting, because we filter those out, and
Yeah,
actually, if we pay attention, they do happen.
yeah,
People do say a compliment or
yeah,
something
yeah,
nice, and being
yeah,
aware that we just filter that out, so we just don't, because again, that's limiting beliefs. We only
yeah,
hear what reinforces our belief system. So we
exactly.
do we do have to change that. The other thing that was helpful for me at the beginning was esteemable acts. In that, I had such a bad um, opinion of myself and thought I was the worst person in the world, and someone taught me about esteemable acts, is just look around for opportunities to just do something helpful or good for another person and not tell
Yeah,
anyone. Those are
yeah,
esteemable acts. Like, I don't know, just one of the things I always do when I travel, because it was done for me, is whenever I see a mum struggling with little children and a stroller or bags,
uh-huh.
I always offer
Yeah,
to
yeah,
help, because people did that for me and it's incredibly helpful. So just in esteemable acts, look for opportunities where you can just I don't know, help someone in a
Yeah,
small
yeah, sure.
way.
Exactly.
And it just, and experience people's gratitude. And it's such a life affirming thing when
Yeah,
that happens.
yeah, yeah. There's a thing in one of the self-help groups that says something like, "I shall do something for somebody else and not mention it. I should
Mm.
do something good." So I can't remember what
Yeah.
the exact wording is, but it says
Yeah.
something like, "I will do something kind or good for somebody else and not mention it," because that's another catch we can. Oh, you'll
Yeah.
never guess what I just did. I just
Yeah.
gave ten
Alert the
pounds to.
press. Alert the
Yeah,
press.
yeah. I just gave £10 to a homeless person. And, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's something quite nice about doing something kind every day, but not actually
Yeah.
sort of bragging about it. But I think it is a slow process. We do come into this process damaged,
Mm.
and I think we have to just these little things make such a difference. Just as you were saying earlier on about, you know, compliments. How many times in early recovery did people say, "Oh, that was really good what you said," and I go, "Oh, yeah, no, it was just something," and I kind of diminish it, immediately
Yes.
diminish it,
You
rather
insult
than
the person who's giving you the compliment.
completely. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. And rather than just go, "Oh, thank you very much.
Thank
That's
you.
kind of you." Yeah, thanks. I would often, I've got much better, much, much better at that now, actually. In fact, I was thinking about this. I didn't know this was going to be the topic. I thought about this the other day. Somebody said something really nice to me, and I just went, "That's really kind. Thank you very much." And I didn't get into a kind of, "Oh, yeah, well, blah, blah, whatever, whatever, whatever." And I just let it sink in. And, uh, and I think it's because, as you said, there's that sort of cognitive dissonance between what our limiting belief is and what people are suddenly saying to us. And they're saying nice things to us. It's, whoa, wait a minute, this does not connect with what my belief system is. And it's quite difficult sometimes for us to kind of to let that stuff in. But the more you can, uh, and maybe that might be one of the 5 things you write at the end of the day. Somebody said I was really nice, or said something really good.
Mm.
But it is difficult. So, but slowly, slowly, and
Mm.
um, hopefully, yeah, I've certainly come to love and have affection for the things that I didn't used to like about myself, like, as I said,
Mm.
my
Mm.
oversensitivity. I now
Mm.
have affection for those qualities or
Mm.
traits,
Mm.
because that's me, and it's
Yeah.
part of who I am. Yeah.
So this is a really good question. I like this one a lot. Does falling in love feel different in sobriety? How did you know if it is love if the only thing you have to compare it to is the love you feel whilst drinking?
Oh, okay. Uh, well, first of all, I used to get love and lust very, very muddled.
Mm.
Uh, I, my story is definitely one of not coming into out of a family where I felt loved. I had
Mm.
no concept of that at all. It wasn't anything that was ever said to me with any meaning whatsoever. Um, and so, for the first person the first person I personally felt in love was when I was about 16, 17, and it was another boy at the school I was at, and
Mm.
I would definitely have said that he was the first person I felt really genuine love for. I felt
Mm.
such affection and love for him, uh, and it was reciprocated, I think, uh, and but I definitely kind of felt that excitement when I saw him, and the pleasure of being with him, and that if you ever asked me who was your first love, I would have said Jamie from school,
Mm.
um, and then after that, in my life, I would fall in love a lot. I would usually be absolutely mystified that the person was with me at all, let alone sometimes they would say, actually, they didn't often say that to me when I was drinking and using, but they might use those words, but I just could not compute. I just spent my entire time when I was in relationships, when I was drinking, thinking, why are you with me? What is the problem here? There's a problem here. Why are you with me? So I think the difference is that I no longer have that sort of questioning going on. And I'm able, because I'm not drinking, to sort of interpret my feelings in a slightly more authentic way. So often I would, personally for me, I would often think that really great sex meant that I was really in love with the person, which was a mistake because that didn't work. Um, I can remember clearly a moment. I was about 5 years clean. I'd had a couple of 2 or 3 relationships, but nothing that kind of. But and I looked across this woman and I said I love you, and she said I love you too, and I absolutely believed it. There was something about the way she said it that 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 it had such an impact on me. I thought, oh my God, you really, really do. Um, it was a mistaken belief because it went on to end incredibly badly, and I felt very, very hurt because she was the first person who I
Mm,
ever felt, first woman who I ever felt really, really loved me, and it ended. That hurt a lot, but it put me into therapy, and I learned an awful lot about abandonment and stuff. But I think better to I'm much better at interpreting my feelings about love and affection now, and I try not to just throw around words like love and casually. And I know now that there are some people in my life who I love, really, truly, truly love, and I didn't ever have that feeling when I was drinking. I would have, a connection with somebody. Maybe we both did the same drugs or drank the same way or something, but it's so different when you just have all that stripped away and it's just two people. And I now can genuinely say that, you know, the when I say I love this person, this person, this person, and this person, probably about 8 or 9 people, maybe not as
but
many
being
as
in
that,
love, but you're not in love with them, are you? This question is about falling in love,
in love.
which is different. For me, it was really when I was drinking. I mean, I definitely felt I mean, I had a sort of high school boyfriend. I don't. My first big love was when I left school, and he was a drummer in a band. I was definitely in love with him. Um, but what was different was I had such low self-esteem and low self-worth. I was very easily manipulated. So he
Right.
manipulated me a lot. And
Yeah.
the other thing is that it was also very confused with need. It was like, I think I'm in love with you, but I need you to be okay. I need you to be here for me to be okay. And there was a desperate neediness
Yeah.
to it. So I could,
Yeah.
I mean, I think, oh God, so many of my romantic relationships were such a train wreck when I was drinking. I think more often than not, I fell in need. Like, you're going to save me. I will be safe with you,
Yeah.
was the feeling. And I thought that was being in love, which is why when it ended, I felt such desolation, such
Yes.
utter,
Yeah.
like, I don't think I can survive. That's how I felt. Like,
Yeah.
when I don't know if I can survive this, it was absolute desolation
Yeah.
and original pain from the original abandonment.
Yeah.
So in sobriety, I mean, I guess in sobriety, I met my husband when I was 6 years sober. I mean, I'd had some relationships, and I don't think I'd been anything close to how I felt for him.
Hmm.
And I want to say it was just so grown up and
Mm.
respectful
Yeah.
and no game playing. And I didn't, he felt, I, he, it felt like I had the cake and he was the cherry. Whereas
Right.
before it
Yeah.
felt like they were the cake and then they took the cake away. Like, that's how it felt. He was just the cherry on my cake. I felt comfortable in my own skin and I liked myself and
Yeah.
all those kind of things. It just, for me, it was night and day. and I know what they're asking there. How do you know if it's love if the only thing you have to compare it to is the love you feel whilst drinking? Like, there was just a lot of other things going on when I was drinking, and it was low self-esteem and neediness and
Yeah.
don't leave me. And I'm not saying there wasn't love there. I think there was in more than one occasion, but there was just a lot of other stuff as well
Uh,
that wasn't
yeah.
there when I was sober.
Yeah, no, exactly. My neediness would demonstrate itself in different ways. Is if somebody went out with me, had sex with me, I was so desperate to keep that affection,
Yeah.
that I would go out the next day and probably steal, or obtain, maybe that's a better word. I would obtain something of ridiculous value, like sort of, gold Dunhill lighters or something. I don't know, something ridiculously out of proportion to the fact that this poor woman had just slept with me the night before. And go, here, look, a gift for you. Please stay with me. And it's like
Yeah. Don't
it
leave me,
was
don't leave me, don't leave me.
no, yeah, exactly. I mean, it was actually quite distasteful. Actually, it was almost there's a part of that I find a little bit distasteful. It's like because it's like, oh, you slept with me, now I've got to go and get something really. But it wasn't that. It was, please don't leave me. Here, look, I can provide you with glittery things. Please don't leave me, because I can't bear the idea, like you're saying, I can't bear the idea of you abandoning me. That's going to be way too much. So let's pull out all the stops and do anything to make you think, okay, this guy's a winner. He's a I can't, somebody used a phrase the other day. I can't remember what it is now, but basically implying that I wanted this person to think that I was a worthwhile person, and it was all about what I could give you and how much I could,
Mm.
how I could impress you, and sometimes but it was all about, as you quite rightly said, and I think it's so common. It's about, please, please don't leave me. And I think also something you said made me think about how, we often expect the kind of fairy tale, eyes meet across the room, fall in
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
What the movies
And
show us.
yeah, and actually the, 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 the loves of my life have not really been like that. They have been slow burners. I mean, there's
Mm.
obviously a little bit of it, but it's been a much slower process than that kind of right, and then off we go. I hear people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
right, we've loved each other ever since day one," and it's never been.
Yeah.
Well, it's taken. It grows, I think,
Yeah.
and and I mean, I've now been with Heidi 21 years,
God.
and you know we've had our ups and downs in that time, of course, especially at the early days when we were both quite uncertain about making the commitment, I guess, and all sorts of things. But it is now, it's so, it's so important to me, but I trust it
Yes.
completely. And
Mm.
that means that I can relax and I can enjoy it. And I
Mm.
can, all those feelings that we've just been talking about, the neediness, the please don't abandon me, all that, I don't have that any longer. I have complete trust and faith that this
Mm.
woman loves me and is there for
Mm.
me. And
And she actually knows you and still loves you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. She's still there, and it's got
Yeah.
better and better and better. And the more,
Yeah.
uh, I don't have to worry. That's the thing. I think the lack of worry is a demonstration to me of the depth of the love. It's when when I'm
Yeah.
worrying about it, that means that it's probably problematic. It's when and there are, as I said, there are probably 4 people in the world I don't have to worry about. I know
Yeah.
that they love me,
Yeah.
and that feels really good. And I wouldn't have been able to see that when you're drinking. I can't.
No.
You can't see
Yeah.
things clearly when we're
Yeah.
drinking.
So this is probably the last question that we have time for, and this is
Okay.
another good question about love. At the Cambridge workshop, which is the workshop we did last year in Cambridge, Chip spoke about parental love, being told you are loved, versus parents acting out of love. It really struck me in my childhood, and also to look at how I show love to my children. So parental love. I mean, it's really.
I remember this question.
Do
I
you?
remember, yeah, I do, yeah, and I remember that, you know, there is such a difference between, uh, I can remember having a conversation with my parents, something along that, it would have been something along the lines, I've never felt that you love me, and they would have said, but of course we love you. We sent you to this wonderful school. And then after we sent you to that wonderful school, we sent you to this wonderful school.
We
And
sent you away. That's how
yeah,
much we loved
yeah,
you. We
yeah,
didn't want you to be around.
exactly. That's uh,
Oh my
and
God.
we send you away to your grandparents. I mean, were constantly sending me away. Never once
Oh,
been
the irony.
affectionate, never
Yeah.
once verbally saying it, and yet they would have they probably did go to their graves thinking that they loved me. But I mean, never did I feel for a moment that they did. I never sort
Mm,
of went, oh, here are two people who really care about me and really love me. Never felt it once. Although, as I said, they would look at this lovely house that we live in while you're at school. Look at all
when we
these,
send you away.
yeah, go and play with the gardener, whatever, look at all these lovely things you went. Nothing to do with love and affection at all. Couldn't even touch me. It was
Mm,
ridiculous. And so I do think there's a massive difference between what I call I have already used the word sort of transactional love, whereby,
yeah.
we bought you these things. We bought you a house, or we bought you a flat, or we bought you some lovely things. How can you possibly say we don't love you when we've done that for you? And there's a world of difference, because you can make somebody feel 20 times more loved by just being with them and listening to them and holding them and spending 20 minutes with them. I can remember I would, at Christmas with my daughter, I would buy really expensive presents, uh, and that would be a demonstration of my love, but actually it wasn't at all. Rest of the time I wasn't around. I was all over the place. I was absent, and I wasn't around at all. But I thought, well, if I buy big enough presents, that will be a demonstration of it, and it's not. And I think a lot
I
of people,
think I think a lot of people confuse money and love.
absolutely,
I think that
yeah,
can happen a lot in families.
absolutely, yeah,
I remember we've both talked extensively about our dysfunctional relationship with our
hmm
parents, and I know so I would spend a lot of time in therapy talking about my mother, and I remember a therapist asked me once and said, because I was in such a rage, she said, "Can you tell me something that your mother does that's loving?" And I sat there and I couldn't think of anything, and then I thought of something. So when we used to go for dinner, um, or lunch or whatever, and order
yeah,
dessert, and dessert would come and we'd get different things. And I'd look at my mum's dessert, go, "Oh, that looks really nice." My mum would always go, "Here, you have it. Here, you have it." And I'd be like, "Oh, Rich, are you sure? Yeah, yeah, you have it." And oh, okay, great, I'll have yours then. And I realized I could look back, and I realized that was an act of love. That's what a parent does to a child: is you prefer my dessert, here, have it. And I realized it took me a while, but I it wasn't until I was older that I could see a lot of things that my mum did were about love. And I think parental love is a lot like that for a lot of people. Is that I don't think until you're a grown up and maybe even a parent yourself, you can look back and see what your parents did that were acts of love that you just didn't notice and you weren't aware of, and all of that kind of stuff. I know with my own kids, I mean, I think that you fall in love with your children. I mean, I feel like I just fell in love with my children,
mm,
and it isn't just saying it is really important. I mean, I've definitely had clients who said, I can't ever remember either of my parents saying they love me. Can't.
sure,
And I'm
no,
like, bloody
yeah,
hell.
yeah,
So I think saying it is really important, but I also think demonstrating it is
yeah,
equally important in
yeah,
acts that they may not be able to articulate, but they can feel
yeah.
that they are loved, and or
And it can be tiny things. It can be
yeah,
such small things.
yeah,
It can be just, you know, just getting down to their level and sort
Mm.
of not towering over them, just getting down to the level and saying, "What's going on? You look a bit, are you all right?" Just a little thing like that, which would be unheard of. Unheard. I mean, I just never did I ever hear or that kind of remark said to me, and it feels
Mm.
so natural just to sort
Mm.
of say to a child, "Well, are you okay? What's going on?" And yeah, I think it doesn't have to be big things. It can be, and I think, as we've said, there is an awful lot of financially transactional love. How can you possibly say we don't love you when we've spent so much money on you?
And that whole, I've worked so hard. I work
Yep,
really long weeks and I commute all these hours and I work
yep,
so hard to give you all the things you need. And I think that's a big one
yep,
because but children do need a home and
yeah,
security and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But often kids don't really give a crap. What they want, kids want more than anything is time with their parent connection.
yep,
It
exactly.
and I think that's a big one. And what a lot of the time parents are doing is they're doing it for themselves, but telling themselves they're doing it because they're a good parent.
Yeah,
And actually you could do with a lot less. And it's hard, because we all want material stuff and security and all that kind of stuff. But um, there's a real balance there of there's parents who've like really scrimped and saved and done a lot to get their kids into a really
yeah,
good
yeah,
school, but and they've sacrificed immensely
yeah.
to be able to do it. I can't remember who I was reading about. There's somebody I was reading about whose parents did that. I think it's Rishi Sunak, actually. I think I was reading it about his parents, that was a stretch for them to send them. Anyway, a whole other subject.
Oh, I think you picked the
But
wrong one there. I don't think it was. I don't think it was a
I think
stretch.
well, I don't know. Maybe I can't remember who it was. Anyway, but I think it's a balance with parental love. I think the number one thing is time, and I realize I'm really aware with my kids, my 11-year-old and my 7-year-old, that we're going to run out of time very quickly. That they won't want to spend time with us.
Yeah,
That they won't want to be hanging out with us. And right
yeah,
now we're a really good unit of 4, and they want to do things with us. But I'm
yeah.
aware that that's going to change soon.
It does, and as it should do, really. I mean,
Yeah.
they should. But I hope they go out into the world, with that belief that they are loved right from the get go, rather than have to,
Mm,
you know, s- work it all out for themselves and go to therapy and
mm,
do all that sort of thing. But I hope that they have it in their just sort of in their bones, knowing that they're loved,
mm, mm.
and knowing that, yeah, that's a real gift, and I think most people would much rather have that than a nice watch or a whatever. But it's such little things to make people feel cared for. It doesn't take a lot.
Mm, mm.
Um, and I think that's what annoys me actually about uh, how little it takes to make somebody, especially a child,
Yeah.
feel cared for and feel listened to and feel heard. It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult. Obviously with adults it's more difficult, and you've got much more emotions and complexities to deal with and to manage, and to and sometimes be in conflict with your own. But with children, it's not rocket science. It's really simple, and I think that. You hear it a lot, about how people recognize when they get into sobriety how they are able to see the difference in the way that they talk to and treat their children in sobriety than they did when they were drinking. Because when we drink,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do absent ourselves from our children.
Mm.
We don't want to necessarily, but we do by the very nature of the fact that we put intoxicants in our body that make us disconnected from everybody, especially our
Yeah.
children. And
Yeah.
they notice it, they spot it. How many people have I ever seen in my life and did your drinking affect your children? Well, no,
Mm.
how old are they? 13, and they don't notice. Really, I think you'll find they started noticing from the age of about 2, if not
Mm.
before, that you were not fully present. Um,
Mm.
yeah,
Not drinking alcohol is an act of self-love.
yeah, yeah.
Start there.
There's a good one. Why
right?
didn't
Not drinking
we should have
alcohol is
started there. That's great.
that's an act of
Really good.
self-love.
Yeah.
Start there and go from there. So
Eating properly. Yeah.
yeah,
Getting
yeah,
enough sleep, looking after
yeah,
yourself. Yeah.
yeah.
All
Those
those are really good thinking.
important
Fish those out of the bag at the bottom of the bag right at the end. That was good. Yeah. Just little tiny things like, go for a walk, sleep properly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, start there. Well,
Yeah.
that's all we got time for. I hope that you found this interesting. I know like Valentine's week can bring up all this kind of, I don't know, thoughts about love and being in love and all that kind of stuff. And I want to say, whatever love is when you're sober, it's better. It's all better sober. Being in love, loving your kids, receiving love, self-love, it's all better. It's purer. It has more depth and weight to it, I think.
Completely and utterly different to anything I thought
Mm.
was loving when I was
Yeah.
drinking and using.
Yeah.
No comparison at all.
Yeah.
No comparison. Yeah.
Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. Love to
Thank
know
you.
your thoughts on the subject.
Yep.
When the posts go up on social media, let us know what you think and what your experiences are.
Yep.
And we will be back soon.
We
Thank you
will.
so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.